Hi, welcome to The Fit Show. I'm Victor Konovalov. Now that's hardcore. Hey, welcome to The Fit Show. I'm Victor Konovalov. Today I'm going to show you some of my favorite workouts. Obviously I have some difficulties that I have to work through, and hopefully in the process, you're going to, as watching me, you're going to actually be able to pick up some tips and be able to take that back for your own personal workouts. I got into athletics really early in my life. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, my father introduced soccer to my brother and I. About a year into playing soccer, my brother and I basically thought, you know, this isn't for us. And for about a week or two, my father didn't discover that we actually quit. And then he said, hey, how come you guys aren't going to practice anymore? And we're like, we quit. And he says, guess what? You're going to play soccer. And from that point forward, we had to basically rejoin. And all the way through high school, that was the primary sport that I played, soccer. Got into motocross when I was about 15 years old. I rode all the way up through the age of 20, and at the age of 20, that's when I broke my back, injured my spinal cord, and it put me in the wheelchair. Subsequently, of course, I ended up in the hospital for 3 months, going through surgery, rehab, and everything else. Every single day while I was in the hospital, I used to basically pray and say, I don't want to wake up the next day. I just want to die. When you're in the hospital, in rehab, you're at your extreme worst. You're completely incapable. You're trying to determine or figure out what your capabilities are. Everybody's doing everything for you. And so in your mind, you're thinking, this is how my life's gonna be. Somebody's gonna have to bathe me, somebody's gonna have to do my hygiene, somebody's gonna have to do everything for me, you know? And I thought, no way, I'm not gonna live this way. Seeing yourself just waste away, you know? You're not only losing body weight, but your legs are shrinking, something that you were proud of because you worked hard for it, you know? And it was unbearable. So eventually it came time for me to actually get out of the hospital. I was afraid to leave. I didn't want to face the world. I became sort of comfortable in the hospital because I knew that people in the hospital understood my situation and nobody would ever hold it against me. I figured that if I went out there in the real world, guess what? I'm gonna be the freak. Because look at the guy in the wheelchair, the young guy in the wheelchair, how bizarre, you know? I didn't want to face that. Even when I went home, I stayed in my house. I was even afraid to go outside because I didn't want to face my neighbors. I didn't want to face my friends because now I had to face them and explain to them. I was actually ashamed of myself and what had become of me. I had no identity anymore at this point. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was going to be capable of. I didn't know what I was going to be doing for my future. I was scared. I think what really flipped that switch for me or got me to change my mindset and get me outside and exploring what my possibilities were was the fact that I could see the pain in my parents' eyes, my father and my mother. And I thought, you know, for their sake especially, I got to do something really positive with my life to make them proud of me again. So I had to take a big gulp. I had to swallow whatever fears that I had and step out into the real world. I couldn't go back to what I was doing for my former occupation, so I thought, okay, I'll go back to school and maybe get a degree and move on from there, you know? So that's what I did. I went to the junior college, signed up, and that was a hard step because now you're in an environment where you're facing, you know, thousands of strangers. And I mean, I remember it, you know, vividly, many times. I'd be cruising down the hallway going to my next class, and I'd see a girl coming up in the opposite direction, up the hallway, and I could see her kind of surveying me. She's looking at me, she's looking at the chair, she's looking at me, she's looking at the chair, and as soon as she got close enough to me, she would look the other way, almost as though to say, I don't know what to say to you, I don't even want to acknowledge you because I'm afraid that you might spark up a conversation with me. And that just killed me because I thought, hey, you know what, I'm still a man. Nothing's changed on the inside, you know, but you don't have to treat me like I'm less of a person because I'm in a wheelchair. You know, I had an unfortunate accident. And, you know, if you're only more understanding and realize that, hey, this could happen to you as well today when you're going home from school, you know, so don't treat me like I'm this freak in a sense, you know, and that's the way I was being treated by a lot of the females. And that was a very difficult thing to kind of deal with. But at the same time, I knew in the back of my mind that I had to succeed at this new endeavor. That means, you know, going to school and getting my degree and stuff like that. So while I was in school in one of my classes, a student that was in one of my classes actually worked out in a gym, and we became friends. And I think he sensed my anguish. He kind of felt what I was going through, because I was going through a divorce at the time. This was brand new. I was trying to, in a sense, patch things up with my family because my ex-wife kind of ruined things there. So a lot was going on, you know. And so he said, you know what, hey, let me pick you up, take you to the gym. I'll show you how to work out and everything else. And I kept putting them off and putting them off because I knew, guess what? I'm gonna go to the gym. I'll be the only guy there in a wheelchair. Everybody's gonna be staring at me like they do at school. And I just didn't want to deal with that. The guy was so nice, I had to finally take him up on his offer. We went to the gym and I instantly fell in love with it, because for those 2 hours we were there, I wasn't thinking about Vic being in the wheelchair. I was thinking about Vic improving who he was as a person, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally as well too. Because I was thinking about, hey, how can I improve my physique? How can I get stronger? How can I become more fit? How can I change my look, you know? So that's what I was focused on for 2 hours. And I said, you know what? This is awesome therapy. Here we go. First thing I want to show you is I use a belt. This belt actually helps to keep me in, keeps me secure in my bench so that I can maintain my balance. So that's the first tip of the day. So in anything you do, of course, you want to make sure that you're always secure. Okay, so what I'm gonna demonstrate for you next is actually one of my favorite workouts for chest, and that's basically a decline fly. Now, normally when I work chest, I actually have a partner that I train with, but today, of course, he's not here, so just so that you know that the handles were actually handed to me. Getting back to the cable movement, it's a decline fly in a sense, and I really like this movement because you can really feel your chest squeeze into it. Now, before I even initiate the movement, I like to feel the stretch in my chest. I like to think about what my starting point is, and also I like to think about where my ending point's gonna be. So I know in my mind, I really felt for it, the sensation of my starting point back here and my ending point. Okay, you guys, what I'm doing now is, now I'm working the upper part of the chest. And again, it's another isolated movement, and it's a cable fly. Establish my groove before I start to really accelerate through the movement, because you really want to squeeze at the very top of the movement. So that was a 1, 2, 3. 2001, 1, 2, 3. Working on my last set. Now, typically what I like to do is, at a very minimum, I like to do at least 4 sets. But if I'm not feeling really super strong that day, I'll lighten it up. I'm not afraid to go light and actually work through repetitions and really work on digging deep into the muscle. Moving on to our next exercise, we're going to be basically working our biceps off the cables. I prefer a low pull because I think that it places better stress on the bicep. Prior to this, of course, I've worked my biceps with the dumbbells and maybe with the barbell and some other heavier machine work. But now, to refine and further develop my biceps, I like to use cables because, again, cables helps to really bring out the definition and the separation in the muscle. So what I like to do is, in my mind, before I start, I visualize that I'm actually on stage and the judges are looking at me, and I want to squeeze my biceps so that it impresses the judges. So I'm over here and I'm thinking about judges are looking at me and I'm squeezing my biceps. Now you can alternate the way I'm doing, or of course you can go simultaneously, you know. But if you have the time, you might want to alternate and really practice squeezing into it. And again, I like to do fairly high repetitions for my biceps because I tend to get a better pump that way. Maybe a lot of you haven't even thought about this, but anytime you do any kind of movements that's unilateral, meaning one side versus the other side, you always start with your strong side first, because if your strong side does 12 repetitions, you don't necessarily want to end up finishing your weak side with only 10 repetitions. So it forces you to actually try to make your weak side stronger. So anyways, that was my third set. I'm gonna take a little break. You guys come right back because I'm gonna kill you on this last set. Okay, here we are, guys. You've seen some of my tricks with some of my favorite movements. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you through my abdominal workout. I traditionally start with my lower abdominals first. What I like to do is, what I like to think of is, I'm basically doing a pelvic lift. So I'm basically going to just lift my pelvis straight up off the floor and then back down. Straight up off the floor and then back down. Initially, as you begin this, you're not gonna feel a whole lot of resistance, but as you continue through this movement and you really focus on the squeeze at the top of the movement, squeeze, touch, squeeze, touch, squeeze, touch. After about 50 or so of these, you start to feel the burn. Remember, your abdominals are a non-jointed movement. And so leg lifts and all those other things you see don't really work your abdominals like you think they are. This is the best thing that you can do for your lower abdominals. So I'm gonna stop there and I'm gonna take you into my upper abdominals now. For my upper abdominals, I like to take my hands, put them right to the side of my head. I don't wanna put them behind because I don't wanna torque through with my arms. I wanna make sure that I'm not applying any torque with my arms. And I just focus on crunching. Back, squeeze up, back, squeeze up. Sometimes I'll even do this. I'll take my hands and I'll put them right in the area where I'm working out and I'll feel for the sensation. And I'll deliberately actually pull the muscles together like you're kneading it. And you can really feel the burn. Now, just for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna show you what my techniques have done for me in terms of my abdominals. That's it, you guys. Some of my friends in the gym said, hey Vic, you know what? We've seen your transformation. We really think you should do a show. And I said, nah, show's not for me, you know? I'm just happy doing, working out in the gym. And they said, no, you gotta do a show, you gotta do a show. So finally, just to get them off my back, I said, okay, I'll do my first show. That was back in '95. Went to the show, brand new, adventure for me. Wasn't sure how I should prepare for it or anything. I just trained my butt off, thought I was dieting the right way and everything else. Show up to the show, I'm the only guy in a wheelchair, so that was a little embarrassing, but I went up there anyways, and it was just such an incredible experience to be up there and to have the audience just acknowledge your hard work. And it was just the most amazing experience. And of course, from there, it just led to a whole bunch of other things. And while I was at that show in Anaheim, Ed Connors from Gold's Gym, one of the original owners, he was at that show. And he says, hi, I'm Ed Connors. I think that you have, a nice physique, well balanced and everything else. And I think that you could do well at the Nationals. Didn't even know what the Nationals was. Nobody ever told it, explained it to me. And I said, what's it all about? He goes, it's a national event for guys in chairs. So I was stoked. I was completely ecstatic about this great opportunity. Took him up on the offer. And so for that next year, from '95 through '96, I was just going to Gold's Gym in Venice 5 days a week. Mind you, I only done one show at this point, so I'm not even sure how well I'm gonna be received by the audience or by anybody else. I just was hoping I could go there and just do well. Never expected to win, and did my thing on stage. Lo and behold, it comes to the overalls. I win my weight class, I go into the overalls, and they call my number, but I don't even respond to it yet because I can't believe it. I'm waiting for them to call out my name. Finally, they say, overall winner, Victor Konovalov, and I was just like, no, this isn't happening. My first shot at the Nationals, and I won. One of my highlights in my bodybuilding career with Weider was when I had an opportunity to basically try to inspire or motivate other guys in chairs to get into competition. And of course, Weider gave me the avenues to reveal myself to people throughout the world. So I used to receive a lot of fan mail from all over the world, and then from guys in the country. And basically they would ask me questions like, how did you get started in the bodybuilding? What do I need to do to get started with it? And it gave me an opportunity to sort of address them with some of their questions. And so I think that what they saw, what they witnessed was that, God, if I could do this, if I could win 3 national titles, get my pro card, get a contract with Weider, they could potentially do the same thing. They have all the same options and opportunities available to them as well too. So I think in that sense, just doing my own thing, just trying to be the best that I could be, kind of inspired them and motivated them to do the same thing, to seek out becoming a bodybuilder themselves. And it's the funny thing is because when I went to the 2004 Nationals, when I went on my 4th time, the guy who I dethroned was actually somebody who was looking up to me. I was his mentor in a sense. That's what he told me at the show. He goes, I used to watch you, I see you in the magazines, and I always wanted to be on stage there with you. So for him, it was an amazing thrill to actually be on stage with me, competing against me when I was his mentor. So that's just one example of some of the people I kind of inspired and got them interested in their bodybuilding. Again, I'm nobody special, I was just doing my thing. And they, in their own minds, thought, well, God, if he's doing this, I could do the same thing. I used to get fan mail from other people that were maybe overweight or had other physical anomalies or whatever it may be, and they would say, hey, you know what? Just want to say that we're really proud of you, and you basically have inspired or encouraged me to go forward with my own life and to do something really good with my own life. Right now, at this moment, I am preparing to go back to West Palm Beach to see if I can win my 5th national title. Beyond that, what I'd like to do is continue within the industry, continue within the bodybuilding and fitness industry, and see if I could continue to motivate and inspire others to become their best. I know that life is busy and that people get caught up in their careers or family life or whatever it may be, but you know what? We forget to think that our health is our most valuable asset that we'll ever have, and I think it's kind of a shame that we kind of tend to put that off to the side and say, hey, one day I'll get to it, one day I'll get to it. Well, guess what? One day it comes here before you know it. I feel like this is where I belong. People have always said, hey Vic, maybe it wasn't an accident, having you becoming paralyzed, because maybe this is what you were meant to do, was to inspire others to really, seriously think about their own health and their fitness, and it's quite possible, and I would like to think that my whole situation isn't in vain, that maybe I was intended for this, to inspire and to motivate and to encourage others. Hey you guys, thanks for joining me on The Fit Show. I hope I had a chance to motivate you and fire you up through some of my favorite techniques. Until next time, take care of yourselves and always follow your dreams. it's really great to be on the Fit Show because it gives me an opportunity to sort of relaunch my whole philosophy behind all this as a way to sort of encourage and to motivate and inspire others, you know. Again, you know, I really belong in this. This is where I'm most comfortable. This is my comfort zone. This is where I want to be.